Welcome to the Evening Roundup, May 2, 2025. I'm Maya Hayes.
And I'm Julian Vance.
Please do like and subscribe to AI Tech Pulse if you haven't already.
It really helps us out.
Okay, so today we're diving into the latest in AI and also some space technology news.
Yeah, quite a mix. We've got a stack of recent developments, lots to get into.
We'll be exploring how AI is, well, kind of moving into government roles, boosting research, and even hitting our phones and computers.
And then we'll touch on some pretty intriguing space-related stuff, too.
All right, let's unpack this.
So first up, this potential move of AI into government operations. It's quite a development.
Yeah, the news about a recruiter for Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they're calling it.
DOGE. They're hiring for a project to deploy AI agents across U.S. government agencies. It feels like a big step beyond just, talking about it.
Exactly. This isn't just theory. They're actively looking for people to, and this is the quote, design benchmarks and deploy AI agents across live workflows.
Live workflows, that's the key phrase.
Right. To automate tasks that right now are done by, well, tens of thousands of federal workers.
The numbers are pretty striking. Over 300 roles identified, potentially freeing up something like 70,000 full-time equivalent employees.
70,000. It's a huge number. This feels like a really tangible, large-scale implementation of AI within government. I mean, what's the impact beyond just the numbers?
Well, if you think about that scale, automating tasks for tens of thousands,
Yeah,
it could really shift how agencies operate.
right.
On one side, you've got potential efficiency gains, especially for routine stuff, but like the reactions showed, there are real concerns too.
Job displacement, obviously.
Job displacement, yeah, and also questions about, how good are these AI replacements? Can they really handle the nuances, even in tasks that seem standard?
That's a fair point. Things often look simpler on paper, and the speed and scale here are, well, notable.
And the project's linked to Accelerated Dex, right?
Yeah.
The startup that used to be Accelerate SF.
Yeah, they had some previous connections, apparently, with OpenAI and Anthropic. Though Anthropic clarified their part was just providing API access for a hackathon, not an investment.
Right, good clarification.
Yeah.
But still, having that link, it sort of lends some technical weight to it, maybe, in principle at least.
But those mixed reactions really tell the story, don't they? Lots of uncertainty, potential challenges.
Definitely. And, they haven't specified which agency this is for, or if there even is a specific client agency yet.
And no security clearance needed for the project team.
Yeah, which is interesting. It kind of suggests they might be starting with less sensitive, maybe more clearly defined tasks.
Makes sense.
But it really highlights how this whole landscape of AI in government is evolving. We need to think carefully about oversight, accountability, as these systems get more embedded.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How AI is changing how we handle information. Google's teasing a notebook LM app.
Yeah, for Android. It builds on the web version that's been around since, 2023?
Uh-huh. And the idea is it helps you parse documents, videos, that kind of thing, using Google's AI. So what's the advantage of having this on your phone?
Well, moving it to a mobile app suggests they want to make this AI analysis more accessible, more user-friendly, maybe?
Compared to the web version.
Yeah, a dedicated app could just be smoother for using it on the go.
Mm.
And it's focused on stuff you upload: documents, text files, websites, videos.
So it becomes like your own personal AI expert on your stuff.
Exactly. It's not searching the whole web. It's digging into the content you give it. It acts as a queryable AI expert on that specific material.
And it can handle a lot.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
A 500,000 token context window supports uploads up to 200 megs. Pretty substantial.
So how might that change how you, do research or even just manage your own info?
Well, because it's focused on your content,
Yeah.
the analysis could be way more relevant than just a broad search.
Right.
For researchers, students, anyone dealing with tons of info, it could really speed up finding key insights, seeing connections, answering specific questions about that material. It's basically putting a powerful analysis tool right in your pocket.
Okay, speaking of powerful AI research tools, Anthropic's been upgrading Claude too.
That's right. They extended its research mode. It can now run for up to 45 minutes.
45 minutes. That sounds like a long time for an AI task. What does that enable?
It allows for much deeper, more complex investigations. Claude can break down really complex requests, look across hundreds of sources, both internal and external, and then compile these detailed reports with citations.
So it can dig deeper and connect more dots?
Essentially, yeah. The extra time means it can examine more components, synthesize more information. They gave an example asking who invented video games.
Okay.
And it produced a pretty comprehensive, largely accurate report in just over 13 minutes. Imagine doing that research manually. It could take hours.
Wow, that's a significant time saver. But they still add that warning, right, about potential confabulations,
Oh,
hallucinations.
absolutely. That's crucial. It's a powerful assistant, but it's still a tool. You have to check the information, verify it, especially for anything important.
So faster research, deeper research maybe, but human oversight is still key.
Exactly. Critical thinking isn't going away.
Got it. Now, we're also seeing AI get baked right into developer tools. Apple's working with Anthropic.
Yeah, reportedly on an AI coding tool for Xcode, using Anthropic's Claude Sonnet model.
And this is separate from that Swift Assist thing they announced before.
Seems like it. Swift Assist was announced at WWDC 2024, but hasn't been released yet. This Xcode tool is another angle.
What's the goal with this Xcode tool?
To help programmers, basically.
Yeah.
Writing code, editing, testing, managing bug fixes, even testing UIs, apparently through a chat interface.
So like having an AI pair programmer right in your development environment.
Kind of, yeah. It points to this trend of tech companies leveraging AI to boost their own internal development.
And they're rolling it out internally first.
Reportedly, yes. Which makes sense. They'll want to test it thoroughly, make sure it's actually helpful before considering any public release.
So it's not just about flashy consumer apps, but also using AI to improve how software gets made behind the scenes.
Precisely. Finding those internal efficiencies, especially in complex fields like coding, freeing up developers for more creative work.
Okay, now for something a bit different. One of Google's newer Gemini models, 2.5 Flash, reportedly scoring worse on safety benchmarks.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Lower scores on both text-to-text and image-to-text safety tests. These are automated tests checking adherence to Google's own guidelines.
So why would safety scores go down? Isn't the goal usually to improve safety?
Well, it might tie into a broader trend we're seeing. Some AI companies seem to be moving towards models that are a bit more permissive,
Permissive how?
less likely to refuse prompts on controversial topics,
Mm.
trying to engage more openly, maybe. We saw Meta's latest Llama models tuned not to endorse specific views, but to reply to more debated political prompts.
And OpenAI said something similar too, right? About offering multiple perspectives.
Exactly. Tweaking future models to show different sides of controversial topics without taking an editorial stance.
So there's this tension. You want the AI to follow instructions, even on tricky subjects, but that might push it closer to violating safety policies.
That seems to be the balancing act. It's a really tough challenge, technically and ethically. Users might want less restrictive AI, but the trade-off could be more problematic outputs. The lower scores for Gemini 2.5 Flash might just reflect how difficult that balancing act is.
Hmm. Okay, another Google item, they're planning to let kids under 13 use Gemini.
Yes, specifically kids whose parents use Family Link to manage their accounts.
How's that going to work? AI for kids seems tricky.
Google says there will be specific guardrails for younger users, and importantly, that their data won't be used for training the AI.
But still, allowing under 13s access to a chatbot like Gemini, what are the potential issues?
Well, it definitely signals this race among chatbot makers to get younger audiences engaged. But there are ongoing concerns about how mature these AI systems really are and the potential harms or influences on young users.
I remember UNESCO called for regulation, right? Age limits and stuff.
Yeah, they called for governments to regulate generative AI in education, including age limits and data protection. So Google's move, even with safeguards, bumps up against those concerns. It'll be really important to see how effective those safeguards actually are in practice.
Right. Okay, one more on the AI front before space. Motorola's next Razr phones.
Yeah, the 2025 models, they're getting something called Moto AI.
What's that involve?
It's interesting because it integrates with multiple AI models, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot, Meta's Llama, and Google Gemini.
Wow, all of them. How do you even access it?
Apparently a dedicated button, or you can just look at the phone while speaking.
Look at the phone. Okay. And what does it do?
Things like transcription, brainstorming, contextual suggestions based on what you're doing.
That multi-AI approach is pretty novel for a phone, isn't it?
It really is. Instead of relying on just one provider, it aims to give you access to a range of specialized AIs depending on the task. Potentially a more versatile AI experience, integrated more seamlessly into just using your phone.
Okay, let's switch orbits now and talk space. Near Space Labs got funding.
Yeah, $20 million Series B. They do aerial imaging, but using high-altitude balloons.
Balloons instead of satellites or planes. What's the advantage there?
Potentially cost. And it offers a different kind of persistent view compared to satellites passing over. Could be useful for, environmental monitoring, agriculture, disaster response, checking infrastructure. That funding suggests investors see potential.
Makes sense. And there was a big acquisition too, AeroVironment buying Blue Halo.
Huge deal. $4.1 billion, dollars, all stock. AeroVironment is known for drones. Blue Halo does space and defense engineering,
So what's the strategy behind merging those?
creating a bigger player across more domains, basically. Air, land, sea, space, cyber. The idea is to offer more integrated, comprehensive solutions, especially for government and defense clients. It's about scale and covering more technological ground.
Consolidation in the defense tech space. And speaking of defense, True Anomaly raised a lot too.
They did. $260 million dollars in a Series C round. They're focused specifically on building spacecraft and software for U.S. national security missions.
Wow, $260 million. What does that level of investment tell you?
It really underscores how important space is becoming for national security. There's clearly a big demand and willingness to invest in companies building tech specifically for defense, intelligence, that sort of thing in orbit.
Okay, and then there's this potential link between SpaceX and former President Trump's plans.
Yeah, this involves a proposed missile shield concept, the Golden Dome for America, which would apparently involve armed satellites.
Armed satellites. And SpaceX is involved.
They're reportedly the front runner for launching these systems, possibly in a joint effort with Anduril and Palantir.
And there was something about Mars too.
Right. Trump also proposed $1 billion in new investment to send humans to Mars, which obviously aligns pretty well with SpaceX's whole Starship program.
So potentially big government contracts for SpaceX, but this comes amidst talk of budget cuts elsewhere in science.
That's the context, yes.
Mhm.
Potential big spending on these specific defense and space exploration goals, while other science and research areas might face cuts. It highlights shifting priorities.
Okay, one last piece of tech. MIT Lincoln Lab developed something called WISPAR.
Yes, WISPR. It's a radar and communication system that works at millimeter wave frequencies, but extends the range.
Millimeter wave. Those are the really high frequencies, usually just for short range, right? Like 5G.
Exactly, 30 to 300 gigahertz. Typically short-range stuff. WISPR uses electronically scanned arrays, phased arrays, to make it work over longer distances.
How does it do that?
It can create really narrow steerable beams for radar, which helps with detection and tracking without physically moving an antenna.
Mhm.
And it can create broader beams for communications.
And the benefit of millimeter wave is high bandwidth.
Right, lots of bandwidth. So for communications, you can send more data faster. For radar, it improves the range resolution, seeing finer details. Being able to scan quickly, track objects precisely, and send lots of data makes it pretty advanced.
And it's moving beyond the lab.
Yeah, it's been transitioned to a vendor for actual production. They expect Army units might start using it.
Okay, so wrapping all this up, what does it all mean for you, the listener?
Well, we're definitely seeing AI move way beyond just chatbots. It's getting into core government functions, specialized tools for developers. It's becoming infrastructure.
And the power of these AI assistants for research, like Claude or Notebook LM, that could really change how you access and process information personally.
Yeah, and then in space, there's continued investment in exploration and defense. But notice how intertwined it is with AI and advanced comms tech like WISPR.
So things to think about. How might AI in government actually impact efficiency or maybe the workforce you interact with? How could tools like Notebook LM or Claude's research mode change your own learning or work?
And with space tech advancing, what are the knock-on effects for security for future science? It might seem distant, but these things often have ways of trickling down.
We really encourage you to chew on these developments, maybe look into some of these companies or technologies we mentioned.
Yeah, this is just scratching the surface, really. There's always more to uncover in these deep dives.